Dr. Piotrowski, you are Program Director of Scholarship for Cyber Service. We found overwhelming amount of cyber threats and a huge deficit of cybersecurity professionals. Which fields, in your opinion, should be educational effort to be focused on first?
Well, I work for the National Science Foundation, and we have several programs in cybersecurity. And the underlying assumption is that we have to do this in a very holistic way, that we cannot solve cybersecurity, for example, only on technical layer. It's not enough to prepare, say, engineers or computer scientists. Actually, at the moment, probably the most challenging is the human layer. And so we have to look at social behavior, we have to look at economics, at insurance, at incentives. So all those things, you know, when you think about cybersecurity, you think only like computer scientists. But actually we do this very, very interdisciplinary. So in that sense, my answer would be that we should have some kind of a new umbrella, not a computer science, not engineering. And one approach is, you know, there are some attempts to define something what will be called, say, cyber sciences. And cyber sciences will be a new science that somehow cybersecurity will be under it. And cyber sciences will be everything starting from human behavior and economics and hardware and things related to cyberspace. So that will be ideal. But if I had to pick today, if you say, well, which area would you pick really to invest? I think the biggest shortage is in a technical talent. That this kind of talent that not only knows how to use a tool, but can invent a tool. And I think this is the biggest shortage. But again, if we had to choose one area, but otherwise, I think we have to emphasize equally all those different areas.
Yes, I do understand it's a really broad topic. So how would you call the skill set of a cyber expert nowadays? It's a perfect skill set would cover.
Well, probably it's unrealistic to assume that a person can have, you know, the complete set of skills. So I think one approach is in the United States, the federal government created something what is called National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. As one of the product of that initiative is something what we called Cybersecurity Workforce Framework. And then framework divides, it's a hierarchical structure, and at the top it divides cybersecurity as 7 areas. So essentially we say we don't want one person because there are different roles. So we start with 7 big areas. Essentially we ask the question, what do you do in cybersecurity? So somebody might say, I protect, or I manage, or I solve legal issues, and so on and so on. So you start with those 7 categories, what you do in cybersecurity, and then you go down, and once you answer that question, what you do, what role in cybersecurity, then on the next level you will ask what kind of skill set you need for that role. So again, we don't have a one role, we have 7 roles, 7 skill sets, and then we go down to skills and abilities of a person, and then eventually we recommend what kind of courses, what kind of education you have. Again, not one, but 7 starting points. And again, I would point to National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education framework that is available online.
Yeah, I like the idea very much. I'm wondering what recommendations would you give to Polish companies that really have a shortage of cyber experts?
Well, in United States, the one program that I'm very involved is called CyberCore, and it prepares students to work for the government. But a lot of companies do a similar effort. So I concentrate on bringing workforce to the government. but companies do a similar efforts, and essentially what it is understanding that it's expensive and it requires investments. So you start with some incentive scholarships to students as early as high school. So in the, say, 10th, 11th, 12th grades, we have, for example, major companies organizing a competition. One competition is called CyberPatriot for high schools, and then identify talent, and for those top students, they provide scholarship to help them. And then when they go to college, they have scholarship. And at some point, you are attached to that scholarship obligation that if you agree to work for our company for some number of years, then essentially you don't need to pay it back. And that's the kind of incentive. So essentially, you identify a talent through competitions, and then you incentivize it in exchange for working for your company.
Okay, thank you very much. It's wonderful to share your experience, and we hope that we'll go in this way in Poland too. How do you find CyberSec conference as a platform to meet different worlds?
I'm impressed at the caliber of this. Your ministers that were present at the opening ceremony, opening panel, I believe there were 3 ministers sitting at one table. So United States equivalent will be you have 3 secretaries at one table. I'm not sure if I've ever been at an event that were 3 secretaries at one table, and even if that event existed, probably we'll have 3 or 4 sectors of security going through security clearances. So somehow the one thing that I notice is that it's very direct and open and very high level participation.
Thank you so much. We are really happy to have you here, and hope to see you next year during the conference as well.
Thank you
so
for the
much.
invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.